The Grand Hall of Zenith Prime, a space station suspended at the edge of neutral territory, was thick with tension. Holograms of countless species flickered throughout the chamber, each representing the most powerful factions in the galaxy. At the center of it all stood Captain Elias Vass, Earth's chosen emissary, his expression unreadable as he faced the Zenari delegation. On the opposite side of the room, High Lord Vzan, Supreme Commander of the Zenari Empire, lounged in his obsidian throne, his armored fingers drumming impatiently against the armrest. Behind him stood General Rexer, a war veteran of over 2 centuries, his reptilian face marked with age and wisdom. Vzan's voice cut through the tension. "Human, you waste our time." Captain Vass did not flinch. Clad in a navy blue uniform adorned with Earth's insignia, he stood firm. "We are here to negotiate," he said evenly. Vzan scoffed. "Negotiate? No, we are here to issue a demand." He leaned forward, his golden eyes narrowing. "Earth will choose a side. Now." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Coalition of Free Species, CFS, seated at the far end, exchanged uneasy glances. They had hoped Earth would align with their struggle against the Zenari, yet humanity had remained neutral, refusing to be drawn into the largest conflict in galactic history. Vass folded his arms. "Earth is independent. We will not involve ourselves in this war." Vzan's gaze burned with disdain. "You misunderstand your place, Captain. The Zenari Empire does not ask. We command." His voice darkened. "And if Earth refuses, we will take what we need by force." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. General Rexer, who had remained silent until now, finally stepped forward. His deep voice was measured, almost weary. "High Lord, may I speak?" Vzan waved a hand, granting permission. The aged general turned his sharp gaze to Vass. "Human, I have studied your people, your history. You are a young species, untested in true war." He exhaled, his slitted nostrils flaring. "Yet something about you unsettles me." Vass arched a brow. "I'll take that as a compliment." Rexer ignored the sarcasm and turned back to Vzan, lowering his voice. "My lord, we should reconsider. Humanity is an anomaly. They have survived every war their own kind has waged against them. They adapt. They evolve. They do not surrender." Vzan sneered. "Are you suggesting we fear these primates?" Rexer's expression darkened. "I am suggesting caution. If we force them into war, they will fight without limits. They do not battle as we do, with honor and protocol. They will not seek mere victory. They will seek annihilation." Vzan laughed. "You overestimate them." Rexer's jaw tightened. "You underestimate them." Vass watched the exchange carefully. He had read reports on Rexer, an undefeated strategist and veteran of over 200 campaigns. If even he hesitated at the thought of fighting humanity, it meant something. But it was clear Vzan would not listen. The High Lord rose from his throne, his towering form casting a long shadow over the chamber. "Earth will join us, willingly or by force. That is the will of the Zenari Empire." Vass met his gaze without flinching. "Then you're making the greatest mistake of your life." Vzan sneered. "We shall see." With a flick of his hand, the Zenari delegation turned and exited, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Back on the UHSEIS, the doors hissed open as Captain Vass stepped onto the bridge of his ship, a state-of-the-art diplomatic vessel armed with classified human technology. His crew turned expectantly, waiting for his report. Commander Arya Kane, his second-in-command, met him at the console. "How bad?" she asked. Vass exhaled, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "They're coming." A sharp intake of breath rippled across the room. The Zenari were coming, and Earth was not prepared. Kane's voice dropped. "Orders?" Vass stared at the vast emptiness of space through the viewport. He knew what had to be done. "Send a message to Earth. We have 72 hours before the Zenari fleet arrives. Initiate Protocol Ragnarok." Kane's eyes widened. Are you sure? Vass nodded grimly. I warned them. Now, we prepare for war. Zenari High Command, aboard the warship Dominion. The War Council gathered around a massive holomap of the Sol system, glowing with strategic points. Vzan gestured to Earth's image, his tone dripping with arrogance. The humans have no planetary shields, no war fleets, no defenses beyond outdated kinetic weaponry. A younger officer, General Vex, smirked. Their world will fall in days. Only one voice remained silent. General Rexer sat with his arms crossed, eyes narrowed as he studied the map. Every projection suggested an easy conquest. Logically, Earth should fall. Yet his instincts whispered otherwise. Vzan noticed his silence. Still brooding, old friend? Rexer's voice was low. You are walking into something you do not understand. Vzan scoffed. And what would that be? The general's claws tapped against the metal table. A human war. Vzan laughed. Then let them fight. Rexer shook his head. That is what I fear. Earth's response. A storm of activity swept across Earth. Military bases activated. Satellites repositioned. Cybernetic warfare divisions went dark. In the depths of the Lunar Defense Facility, a single message blinked on a classified screen. Protocol Ragnarok initiated. Across the vast expanse of space, the Zenari fleet began its march toward Earth. The invasion begins. The Zenari fleet emerged from warp space, their colossal warships blotting out the stars above Earth. Rows of massive dreadnoughts, sleek and bristling with weaponry, assumed formation in high orbit, a silent declaration of dominance. Thousands of drop pods detached from the underbellies of the assault carriers, streaking toward the planet like a meteor shower of impending doom. On the bridge of the Zenari flagship Dominion, High Lord Vzan stood with arms crossed, eyes gleaming with satisfaction as Earth's defenses remained unchanged. No planetary shields. No defense grid. No immediate counteraction. It was exactly as expected. Begin planetary deployment, he ordered. Capture key locations and subdue resistance. Beside him, General Rexer remained silent. Something was wrong. It was too quiet. The trap is sprung. On the ground, Captain Elias Vass stood atop a military command post in New London, scanning the sky through his visor. The drop pods were descending fast. Civilians had been evacuated to underground shelters. The streets were eerily empty. Commander Arya Kane approached. They're landing in multiple sectors, government centers, military installations, power grids. Vass nodded, exhaling. As predicted. He turned to the operations table, where a real-time holographic projection of the enemy's descent flickered. All units, hold positions. No engagement until my command. Kane hesitated. We're just going to let them land? Vass smirked. For now. Then, as the Zenari advanced, the city came alive with destruction. Earth's orbital defenses activated from the far side of the moon. Hidden railgun platforms powered up, unleashing hypersonic projectiles that tore through Zenari battleships, piercing their hulls before their shields could respond. Meanwhile, a fleet of AI-controlled drone ships emerged from cloaked facilities in Earth's magnetosphere, moving with eerie, coordinated precision. The Zenari fleet found itself trapped, caught between Earth's relentless ground resistance and a sudden, devastating counteroffensive from space. General Rexer exhaled slowly. He had expected this. High Lord Vzan's expression darkened. Impossible, the humans were supposed to be primitive. Rourke's voice was calm. You assumed too much. It was the final blow of human ingenuity. On the ground, the Zenari army was in full retreat. Vielkal's desperate transmission crackled over the command channel. High Command, we need immediate evac. The humans are. His words were cut short as a pulse grenade detonated nearby, disabling his suit's exoskeleton. He collapsed, struggling against the dead weight of his armor. A human soldier stepped forward, visor reflecting the battlefield's flames. Vecto reached for his weapon. The soldier shook his head. Don't. Vecto hesitated. The humans weren't just winning, they had planned for everything. Zenari flagship orbit. From the bridge, Vzan watched the destruction unfold. For the first time in his reign, doubt crept in. Rexer turned to him. I warned you. Vzan remained silent before finally gritting his teeth. Withdraw the fleet. Epilogue, humanity's message. As the Zenari ships retreated, a final transmission was broadcast from Earth's military command. Captain Elias Vass appeared on every Zenari screen, his voice steady. You came to our world believing we were weak. That we would break. That we would surrender. He leaned forward. We are not the strongest species. We are not the oldest. But we are the deadliest. If you come for us again, there will be no mercy. The transmission cut out. For the first time in history, the Zenari Empire had been defeated. Zenari War Chamber. The war chamber was silent. High Lord Vzan stood at the head of a circular war table, golden eyes burning with barely contained fury. Holograms of their shattered legions flickered in the air, footage of Earth's counterattack playing on loop. Their empire, undefeated for centuries, had been forced to retreat. The Council of Warlords shifted uneasily. Vzan slammed his fist onto the table, causing the projections to glitch. Explain this. No one spoke. Finally, General Rexer stepped forward. I warned you. Vzan's eyes narrowed. They are a minor species. They should not have been able to. And yet they did. Rexer interrupted. They were prepared. Their strategy wasn't just defense, it was a trap. They let us land. Let us believe we had the upper hand. Then they bled us, systematically. Vzan clenched his claws into fists. We should return with everything. Wipe them from existence. Rexer met his gaze. And how many ships do you intend to sacrifice? How many soldiers? The silence deepened. The Zenari had never lost a war. Their empire thrived on strength, dominance. But this was different. Finally, Vzan growled, we will not show weakness. Rexer exhaled, it is not weakness to recognize a war that cannot be won. Vzan turned sharply. Enough. Ready the fleet. Rexer knew then, Vzan's pride would be his downfall. Earth War Room. Deep within the Lunar Defense Facility, Captain Elias Vass stood in the war room, the tactical display casting an eerie glow over his face. Admiral Sheridan, head of Earth's defense forces, nodded at him. We strike first. Vass agreed. If we wait, they'll bring overwhelming numbers. We take the fight to them. A holographic map of Zenari space flickered before them, supply lines, shipyards, command stations, all mapped and analyzed. Sheridan pointed at a key location, Outpost Track 7, a Zenari war foundry producing their newest battleships. If we hit them there, we cripple their reinforcements before they mobilize. Vass smirked. Let's see how they like being caught off guard. Zenari Space Outpost Track 7. The attack came at dawn cycle. Zenari officers detected a faint anomaly on their proximity scanners. Small. Insignificant. A malfunction, they assumed. Then the station went dark. EMP detonations fried their defense grids. Automated turrets became silent husks of metal. Docked Zenari ships lost power, their engines dead. Then the human fleet emerged. Stealth warships, sleek and angular, decloaked in perfect formation. They struck without warning, cyber attacks, precision bombardments, coordinated boarding actions. The first Zenari response fleet arrived, only to find their communications jammed, their targeting systems hijacked. Their own weapons turned against them. Aboard the UHS Eos, Captain Vass issued his final command. No mercy. Human shock troops breached the station. Their adaptive armor countered Zenari plasma weaponry, and close-quarters combat turned into a slaughter. Within 3 hours, Outpost Track 7 fell. The Zenari Empire had lost its primary shipyard. The retaliation had only just begun. Zenari homeworld, the breaking point. News of the human counterstrike shattered the empire. The attack wasn't just military, it was psychological. The Zenari had always been the aggressors. Now, for the first time, they were the ones under siege. The War Council erupted in chaos. Warlords argued, some demanded full-scale retaliation, others whispered of negotiation. Vzan refused to accept reality. We crush them now. Rexer shook his head. Your arrogance will cost us everything. Vzan pointed a clawed finger at him. You doubt our strength? Rourke's voice was cold. No. I doubt your wisdom. Vzan turned to his fleet commanders. Deploy the capital armada. We will burn their world. Before the command could be executed, an incoming transmission interrupted them. The chamber fell silent. On the central holoscreen, Captain Elias Vass appeared. His expression was unreadable. You should have listened. Behind him, a fleet of human warships hovered at the edge of Zenari space. Their weapons were charged, aimed directly at the Zenari homeworld. Vzan's face twisted in disbelief. You dare. Vass cut him off. Stand down, or we finish what you started. For the first time, the Zenari were powerless. Vzan looked around the chamber. He saw no loyalty in the eyes of his warlords. Warlords, even his most loyal generals, now hesitated, and Rexer simply watched. Vzan clenched his fists. This is not over. Vass's voice was calm. Final. Yes, it is the transmission. Ended. Epilogue. A new era. The Zenari Empire was broken. Vzan, unwilling to accept defeat, was removed from power by his own War Council. General Raker assumed command, negotiating a ceasefire with humanity. Earth had done the impossible. They had turned an empire of conquerors into a defeated power. And the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The council chamber, where the Zenari warlords had once dictated the fate of countless civilizations, was eerily silent. Air carried the weight of defeat, something none in the Empire had ever tasted. Before General Rexer stood before the remnants of the Zenari High Council. Vzan was gone, cast aside like a relic of a broken past. His arrogance had led them to ruin. Now that the Empire's survival rested on negotiation, not war, the hollow emitters flickered to life, casting the image of Captain Elias Vass's arms crossed over his chest. His face bore no triumph, only finality. Razor inclined his head slightly. Human. Vass met his gaze. General. The silence stretched unspoken, truths hanging between them. Rexer exhaled, his voice heavy. We surrender, a statement unthinkable in Zenari history. Vass didn't react. No smile, no mockery. Just understanding. Then it's over. Raker nodded. It must be a moment past. Then Vass spoke again. We will not demand reparations, no occupation, no destruction. A murmur spread among the council members. They had expected vengeance, humiliation, retribution. Rexer studied him. Why? Vass's eyes hardened. Because we are not you. Earth Global Summit, United Nations headquarters. The world had changed for the first time. Earth was no longer just a distant planet on the galactic map. It was now a recognized superpower, a force that had shaken an empire inside the United Nations Assembly Hall. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered, some in admiration, others in wary respect. Humanity had proven its strength, but the question remained, what would they do with it? Admiral Sheridan stood at the podium. The cameras broadcasted her words. Across the galaxy, Earth will not become conquerors. Murmur of surprise. The galaxy had expected humanity to seize power in the vacuum left by the Zenari fall. Sheridan continued, we will not replace tyranny with another, but know this: if you bring war to our doorstep again, you will not get the chance to regret it. A warning, not a threat. The message was clear. Humanity was not to be provoked. The fate of Vzan, the once mighty High Lord, was nowhere to be found. Stripped of his title, abandoned by his own people, Vzan had fled. His final transmission Intercepted by human intelligence placed him in unclaimed space gathering. Remnants of his broken fleet. Captain Voss listened to the report from his command. Deck Commander Arcane frowned. Should we track him down? Vast shook his head. No. Need he has nothing left. Kane hesitated. And if he returns? Vass's gaze drifted to the stars. Then he'll learn the same lesson again. The future of the Zenari Empire. The once feared Zenari war machine was in disarray. Their imperial fleet, once numbering in the thousands, had been reduced to a fraction of its power under General Razor's leadership. The remaining warlords faced a choice: rebuild as conquerors or survive as allies. For the first time in their history they chose diplomacy. The war was over. The Empire would not rise again, at least not as it once was. Humanity's next step. Captain Voss stood on the bridge of the UHSES, staring at the vastness of space. Earth was no longer just a single world in the dark they had stepped into, the galactic stage. But this was just the beginning. As he gazed at the distant stars, a thought lingered in his mind. What happens when the next empire comes knocking? Humanity was ready. They always would be.